And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
In the New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers. Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Welcome to Chasing the Trophy Fantasy Football Podcast on the Dirty Boot Sports Network. I'm your host, Derek Sanders, and I'm here with my good buddy, Clay Williams, our producer, and we are coming at you with breakout player picks for this 2024 fantasy football season. And, man, I'm excited to be back. As y'all can hear, I'm a little raspy, so y'all bear with me. But
you're so excited for football season.
I know, man. Dude, that's the problem is I've been on so many phone conversations talking about players and reading and yelling at podcasts over the last week, man. Trying to get these lists together.
Little story for I guess our podcast. I got a text about a couple days after our last episode, where our introduction, our new faces, old faces, new places, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a text saying, "Can you draft my fantasy team?" So that was from Chris Womack. I'm going on the 25th to going to his draft to be, I guess, his assistant GM, and I'm going to help him
consultant.
Yeah,
consultant.
So,
man,
shout out to that.
Hey, maybe that's a new avenue, Clay.
Yeah,
I mean, we might be breaking into something right there.
That's right.
Consulting in fantasy. Y'all reach out to us if you're listening and you're interested to get some consulting advice on your fantasy football
we'll come draft
teams.
your team. We'll come.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ready. That's pretty
drafting's half the fun, man. I love a good I do, especially if I'm prepared. Now, if I'm not prepared, I'm stressing a little bit more. But by this time of the year, and that's one thing I do love about doing these pods and getting ready is, dude, there ain't nothing like getting ready for your draft than whenever you're deep diving into some of this content that we do for these pods. And
yeah,
man,
we're more prepared than anybody.
I like saying prepared. Doesn't mean we're gonna know we're gonna win, but we're gonna at least have some history, and like you said, we're gonna be prepared.
Yeah.
So that's all you can be. That's right. But this episode, guys, we're gonna talk about breakout player picks, and something that's gonna be a little bit different than last year. I think we did a couple different things each episode, but this year, this is just going to be breakout player picks for Clay and I. And the next episode is going to be bust player picks. Then it'll be sleeper player picks. Then it'll be bounce back player picks. So you're going to have a different episode for each one. So y'all be looking for that. We're trying to shorten up
hoping to keep them short. 30 minutes is our goal.
Trying to shorten them up. So breakout player picks, though, these are players to us that seem like they'll take the next step forward in the fantasy football production, not to be confused with sleeper picks. Usually those are later in drafts. These players are normally earlier or mid-draft picks that we think they're just going to outproduce their value and be better than they already have been in fantasy. And it's not a bounce back player. Those are players that have already been productive and they had a bad year or a bad couple of years, and we think they're going to bounce back. These are players that, have not been, that we think they're going to overproduce what they've done so far in their career. And Clay and I both, each one of these categories, as we go over the next several pods, we're going to have 3 players at each position for you, at each major position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end.
Who knows? We might have 3 quarterbacks and all 3 of them are the same ones. And if that's the case, you better run to those players.
That's right.
Or avoid them if they're the bust.
Or avoid them. That's exactly right. So, but I mean, there's many different things that we consider when we make these picks. I mean, physical and statistical development, as well as changes to player and coaching personnel around them. I mean, even the weather. I mean, it's just a bunch of different things that we consider. Well, I mean, for real, because, I mean, I guarantee if you take Jared Goff and you go put that dude in Pittsburgh or Chicago, he is going to be terrible because Jared Goff is a terrible cold weather player.
Instead,
it just is what it
Jared
is.
Goff's playing 14 games in a dome this year.
That's right. That's right. And that's why he
one
is
of the
as good as
craziest
he
things
is.
ever.
But anyway, neither here nor there. We take a lot of those things into consideration, like that offensive line changes. Some of that strength of schedule is something that I try to incorporate a little bit more into mine this year. Not as heavily as I have, because sometimes strength of schedule can be very misleading because all they can do is base it off of last year's stats, and teams can change so much to the next year. So a really good Falcons defense from last year could be really terrible this year because of injuries and various things. So you can't really hardly factor that in as much, but it really just depends on how much turnover you have at the defensive position going against the offense. But anyway, neither here nor there. That's just kind of some of the premise of how we make some of our picks. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. Before we do, we're going to start off, as we always like to do, with a word of prayer. And then we're going to talk about our sponsors. And then we're going to get right onto the meat and potatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off right here, Clay, with the word of prayer. And Lord, just thank you for this opportunity and this blessing that we have to talk about this wonderful game that you've given us. Just giving us a chance to talk about, enjoy, and watch, and really just allowed us to partake in, because without you, nothing would be possible. We would not do it if you did not allow us to be able to do it, Lord. And just thank you for all the blessings you continue to give us. Just please bless us and do anything we do just to bring light in your name, Lord. And just please be with the family of that young man and out there at Weston that lost his life in the community, Lord. Just be with them and just comfort and care for them, Lord. And just let our thoughts and prayers still be with them, and just give them some understanding and comfort, Lord, and be over them. And then also just be with Crew Tidwell as he's still undergoing treatments, and be with his family as they're going through that trial and that time in their life, Lord. And just help continue to let them be a light for you. And in that, and just continue to let us enjoy this and fellowship in this wonderful game that you blessed us with, and continue to just be a light for you and spread your name. In your name we pray. Amen.
I'll take over the ad. You get some water.
Yeah, I know, man. I am sorry, dude. Go ahead.
I got it. So, yeah, our sponsors, as always, Big Reed BBQ, Mimi's Children's Boutique, Doug Damona Farm and Feed, Crown Detailing, Championship Carts. All of them are amazing. Been supporting us for a while, but today's title sponsor will be Doug Damona Farm and Feed. It is a family-owned and operated farm supply and nursery. There you can find a wide variety of pet and livestock feed, supplements, vet supplies, plants, seeds, and fertilizer. Located on Highway 167 just north of the Hodge Mill, you can be sure you'll be treated like family at Doug Damona Farm and Feed. From our family to yours, thanks for your business. So shout out to them, and let's get into this.
Thank you. Hey, guys, deer season is upon us.
Yeah,
go get your corn from Doug Damona Farm and Feed, okay?
There you go.
I'm sure that they probably have any kind of deer hunting supplies, anything you need. Go check them out.
Yeah,
Thank you guys for supporting
they
us.
might have deer stands just like outside that you can buy.
Yeah.
I think they do.
Yeah, I would have no doubt. So
they got the stuff that I walk in and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
And also, guys, like we talked about before, we're not covering really any news, injuries, or updates, particularly if they're related to the players we're talking about. We'll cover them, but we're going to hold off until closer to the season. So that there won't be any news or updates, where normally at this point we talk about that in the pod, but that'll be later on, closer to the season. So we're going to go ahead and get on rolling, and I'm going to do my best not to be extremely too raspy. So, Clay, if you want, go ahead and get us kicked off on your quarterbacks.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to do 3 at a time, and then we'll keep rolling to the next position. My 3 quarterbacks, this is breakouts, correct? Just make sure I'm not reading the wrong list.
Breakouts, quarterbacks.
Breakouts. I'm going to start with one that I feel is going really, really low for his ADP, and I like the offense around him a lot. It's Will Levis. Will Levis, this is honestly a guy that I do not see as a 26 overall fantasy quarterback. I see him being, honestly, I can see him in the top 15. You bring in an OC with or an OC from Cincinnati, which obviously we all know how much we love Joe Burrow and how much we've loved that offense the past couple of years. He's going to take this to another level. You bring in Calvin Ridley, you bring in Tony Pollard. You already have Hopkins. You already have Spears. They have weapons. You also had Tyler Boyd, who's Mr. Reliable. Lot of good weapons around Levis, and he showed some flashes last year. Definitely has some arm strength. I think there's a lot to be excited for with Will Levis, and I think he's definitely a guy that I'll target. Maybe if I go into a draft and I get a high end quarterback, and then I don't want to draft a second, I can pick him up after the draft as that backup quarterback option because I don't think many teams are going to be drafting him.
Completely agree. Excellent points. I mean, I honestly, he would. I like the other guys that are on my list as well. He very easily could have made this list, and I believe he's on another one of my lists. But going around pick 172, guys, like that's pretty much free.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's going 2 picks ahead of Justin Fields, who's not even the starter. Just saying.
That's crazy.
And you know what's even sadder than that is Justin Fields is going 1 pick ahead of Daniel Jones, who is the starter.
Wow.
And Derek Carr.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what these cats are doing with Justin Fields.
Pittsburgh fan base.
I guess so, man, pushing that up. So, all right, so I like that. Will Levis, what else you got?
My number 2 is Bryce Young. I'm certainly not a Bryce Young fan or believer, to be honest. Last year I was on the take Stroud or take Richardson, do not take Bryce one, and that looked pretty good for my opinion, but I do like what Carolina has done around Bryce. They've improved the O-line a lot, put a lot of money into that. You bring in Deontay Johnson, who's a player that I really like a lot, and I think that's a good, reliable weapon alongside Adam Thielen, who already had a good season. You improved the running back room already. Which mouth is going to be fed, who knows, but too many is better than not enough. And they also bring in the head coach that changed Geno Smith from one of the worst draft picks to a player that's still fantasy relevant. And then you also changed Baker Mayfield from can't be anywhere to a really good fantasy quarterback and a playoff winner. So maybe he can do the same magic on Bryce Young. And I think there's a good chance of that. And, certainly not the best division, with the Saints and the Bucks and the Falcons, it's a pretty favorable division. So I like Bryce Young this year. 22 overall for quarterbacks. Is he going to be anything incredible? Probably not, but I do think you do see a step up for him this season.
Yeah, going around pick 198 or so as far as on average. So I use for an average ADP, I go by Fantasy Pros because they use ESPN, Yahoo, CBS Sleeper, RTS Sports. And then they average all the ADPs, like the total ADP, together. And so as far as that goes, somewhere around that, what did I say? Yeah, 198 range. I mean, there's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. I'm not saying
that's what I keep telling myself.
He's not better. I mean, I'm not saying he's better than some of these quarterbacks that just got drafted. This was a heck of a quarterback class that we just had, but he was still the number 1 overall quarterback that was drafted. I think he still has some room to grow. He's just going to need the right person to do that. I think you could be onto something with that coach coming in to help cultivate his and just kind of use his experience and cultivate his growth. So I like that pick a lot there.
My last one is Caleb Williams. Can he break out when he's never even played? I don't know. I really think Caleb Williams is going to have a great season. Now, do I think the Bears are going to be incredible? Not necessarily. I do think the Bears are going to be right around 500, if not a little bit under. But I think that is kind of just going to help out Caleb Williams in that offense to a certain extent. It's hard for me to believe that Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze does not succeed like that. Like if Caleb Williams doesn't throw for 4,000 yards this year, I'll be shocked. Right now he's going as QB 16. I would take him over a couple of them guys. Certainly Justin Herbert. I'd take him over Kirk. I'd take him probably over Brock Purdy, to be honest, just because of the upside. There's a lot of people above him that I think he can be better than, and I think he can be a top 10 quarterback this year. And that doesn't mean that he's going to be the generational talent that he's supposed to be living up to, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to be an awesome fantasy quarterback. There's two different worlds that you can live in, and I think Caleb's going to be awesome for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean the skill set's there. I've seen him make some plays this past weekend that were pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, there was a throw that you're like, that's Mahomes.
Yeah, there was a couple that were really impressive. My worry is not his physical attributes and his physicality; it's his mental capacity and his leadership ability that I have a problem with. And that does not always interfere with fantasy production because you can put up stats and not be a leader. And we've seen that before in quarterbacks, but I can't argue with you because his ceiling is extremely high. Yeah. Like you said, you would pick him over Purdy. I mean, I'm right there with you. I think his ceiling is, it's probably top 5 if he runs enough.
This year he could be top 5 quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised
with his weapons. Now, what does worry me is the Chicago, I guess you could say, stigma. They've been so bad for so long.
I think if he throws for 3,800 yards, he'll be the single season record holder for Chicago.
And that wouldn't. And what's hard to believe,
3,800 yards is a bad season.
What's hard to believe is Jay Cutler never beat that when he was there, and I thought he was decent at least. Which I don't think he was great, but
I played him plenty of times in fantasy.
Yeah, but I thought he was good enough to throw for 3,800 yards. You know? But anyway, I like that pick a lot, and I don't think there's any problem with picking a breakout, a rookie as a breakout, because I've actually got a couple of them on this list. So
all right, what you got?
I think so. Leading right on into that, one of my breakouts is going to be Jaden Daniels for Washington. I really think, he doesn't have quite the weapons that Williams has, but he's got a pretty decent ones between Zach Ertz, the rookie Senat at quarterback, at a tight end, and then Eckler, Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, and then they got their rookie McCaffrey, and then they also have De'Ami Brown at wide receiver, and then there was another wide receiver that I actually just read about that was not on my radar.
Alameda Zacchaeus?
Yes. Yeah. Zacchaeus.
Been around for a couple years.
He's been around for a couple years, but he's not that old.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the offensive coordinator there in Washington was with him in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And also, he has a history.
Dan Quinn was the head coach. Well, he was the DC when he was in Atlanta. So I guess there's probably a connection there in terms of just personnel.
Yeah, a couple connections there.
I've seen some rumors that Dotson has played so bad that he might get traded. It's crazy stuff.
What's crazy because he was such a clutch player last year in the red zone. But I like Jaden Daniels with that. I think he's going to run more than Caleb Williams. Honestly, I really looking at him. He's almost like a kind of your perfect hybrid between Lamar and a little bit more polished of a passer. He's not as shifty as Lamar, as flashy, but he still gets the job done. His sprint speed's definitely there with Lamar, I feel like. But I just think he throws the ball, especially the deep ball, better than Lamar. And I don't know, man. I feel like people are kind of sleeping on his dual threat ability a little bit. I know he's small, and you got to factor, you got to think about injury, but when we're picking these players, we're picking them healthy, and I think if he stays healthy, I think we could be talking about somebody that's going to be up there in the top, 6-7 quarterbacks next year when he gets drafted. So I like Jaden Daniels a lot. This other guy, I just can't give up on him. He's just seems like he's got too much talent. He's got too much talent around him. He's got too good of a head coach, but that's Trevor Lawrence from Jacksonville. He was hit or miss last year. Ended up the season at QB 14. But this is one of those that I did look a little bit at strength of schedule, and he has the easiest schedule for a quarterback. And he's got Gabe Davis. They drafted a pretty solid rookie in Brian Thomas. Now he hasn't quite caught up to speed to the NFL, so he's not gonna probably be a factor as early. But between him, Christian Kirk, and then they have the rookie from last year, Parker Washington, that's made some splashy plays. That's another name to keep in your back of your mind that could be somewhat relevant. And then you got ETN, you got Evan Ingram. I mean, and then you got Doug Peterson.
A lot of weapons.
Doug Peterson over there scheming. So we've seen what he did with Carson Wentz, and then we didn't see Carson Wentz do anything after he left.
Yeah.
And we knew Trevor Lawrence was special, with what he did when he was a freshman at Clemson. And I know that's college, but it's still the same player, and he's only growing and maturing. I just feel like it's too late. It's still a little too early just to completely eliminate that he can be a better player and quarterback than what he showed us. So anyway, he's only 24. But Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville, easy strength of schedule. He's going around pick 121. He's going 16th quarterback off the board. But also, one other thing people kind of forget about, some of his rushing. He ran the ball 70 times last year for 339 yards and 4 touchdowns. I probably think that's pretty average. And he had 4,000 yards, but he only had 21 touchdowns. And I feel like that could definitely increase. I don't feel like that's a ceiling by any means.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, I like him a lot. And then my third quarterback's Jordan Love. This one, I talked to Clay a little bit about this guy. I'm not the biggest Jordan Love fan. All right. So it's hard to say that and pick him as a breakout player. But looking at his team, looking at his offense, looking at his culture, looking at his coach, looking at his running game, looking at an offensive line. There's just a lot to like about Jordan. Like, he finished at QB5 last year, so it's kind of hard to say he's going to break out, but they got him ranked around QB10 this year. And, I think it's time. I feel like he's probably more likely he should probably be ranked higher than he's getting credit for. He doesn't have
I'd
the
definitely
flashiest.
say he's more of a top 7 or 8 kind of guy.
Yeah, he's not the flashiest, as far as running and all that, but he's very efficient, and he's done what Matt LaFleur has set up and asked him to do. And he's got another pretty easy strength of schedule. It's not as good as Trevor Lawrence, but it's fourth. Out of 32 teams, it's fourth for quarterbacks. So, it's another pretty easy schedule for somebody. He's got a real bruiser behind him with Josh Jacobs. He had Aaron Jones catching the ball, but, Josh Jacobs can catch the ball. But, they've got 4 solid wide receivers, really. None of them just stars, except for maybe Christian Watson. If he could stay healthy, he probably could be a star. But I don't know. I feel like there's one more step for him to break into that, like you said, 5-6 range.
Yeah.
He is going a little sooner than he was, obviously, last year. He was going way late, but I don't know. I think he's got one more level to go, and you got to think about the history there, and they're following the same rubric they did with Brett Favre, and then Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love, and I'm not saying he is those guys, but I don't know, man. He looked very good last year,
yeah.
And who's to say that he doesn't take that next step?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I don't know.
This year.
I feel like he's somebody that could take one more step forward and at least be really solid for you. I don't think he's going to let you down by any means. So,
and an added bonus, he actually feels likable compared to Favre and Rodgers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You actually kind of want to root for him. So that's another bonus. But yeah, I like that pick a lot.
Yeah. All right, running backs, Clay. Who you got?
My number 1 running back is James Cook. I loved James Cook last year, and it turned out pretty well. I don't know what he finished. I would say top 15, probably about 12 or so.
Hang on,
and
I'll tell you.
He's getting drafted at 13 right now, or he's listed at the 13th running back.
He finished at 11 last year.
Yeah, there we go. So two spots lower for a guy that's in his third season and expected to take that next step. You lost Stephon Diggs, you lost Gabe Davis. Who's going to really come in and look better for that offense? I think James Cook is a guy that can take it to another level. And also, he started off kind of slow last year, but he did pick it up towards the back half whenever Joe Brady took over as the OC, and he looked really good, getting involved in the passing game, staying efficient as a running back. And Joe Brady's there full time now as the OC. I think that's just going to help him out even more. And I expect a lot of big things out of James Cook this year.
And he has hardly any competition behind him.
Yeah.
By the way, like Ray Davis is a guy that's a rookie that's come out that's been he's been okay, but I mean nothing special. Ty Johnson, Frank Gore Jr. Yeah, because it says Frank Gore. No, not 50-year-old Frank Gore, his son. And then Darrington Evans, but like
nothing.
Yeah, not anything. I really think they're going to give him the reins this year too. Yeah. He's somebody that I've kind of been targeting a little bit more in drafts than I know. Like, there's always some guys that you kind of look at. And then also as far as his ADP, he's going around 37, but he's going to be in a good offense with a good quarterback and a team that's probably going to put up a fair amount of points if they keep keeping consensus of what they've been doing the last several years.
Yeah.
So I like that pick a lot.
My number 2 is Javonte Williams. It's another guy that I've kind of felt like could have been a breakout the past, 1 or 2 years. And I do think now that he's fully healthy, because last year he was coming off that ACL injury. He's fully healthy in a situation that I just think he's really built to really boom this year. All the reports out of practice are that he's pretty much taken every first team snap. There's been some concerns of Jaleel McLaughlin maybe taking some snaps for him, the rookie S team from I think Notre Dame or somewhere.
Estime.
Estime. There's been some rumors of that, but it seems like Javante's the guy. I'm sure McLaughlin will get some third down work, some receiving work, and stuff like that. But I think Javonte should get the bulk of the carries, and as the 27th running back right now, I'd definitely take him over some of the guys above him, and I think he can be a top 15, maybe fringe top 10 type of guy this year. I like him a lot.
So this is one of those overlapping players for Clay and I, because he's on my list also.
There we go.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about him, and then when we get to him on my list on my part, then we'll just skip by him. But I like him a lot also. Another one of those strength of schedules that I looked at a little bit. He's got the 10th best strength of schedule for a running back. He finished at RB 31 last year, and we didn't even feel like he was as good as we thought he was going to be, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, we got to remember he was coming off a bad knee injury, okay? And sometimes it takes running backs almost a year before they start feeling like themselves again. And even Sean Payton has come out, and, Sean Payton's really not one of those to put a lot of fluff on a player. I feel like he doesn't talk players up unless they really deserve it, Yeah. And he's talked up Javonte Williams some this summer. And they said he's lost weight. He looks shiftier, quicker, more explosive. I think this is going to be the Javonte Williams breakout that we thought was going to happen last year.
Yeah.
I really do.
I'm very excited for him.
I'm on that train there with you. And guys, you can draft him around pick 90, okay, overall. The 32nd running back, the last RB1 coming off the board technically.
And what's crazy is I'd be totally fine with drafting him as my RB2.
RB2, no doubt. Absolutely 100% excited.
That is crazy. Yep. So if you get in a situation where
RB for you.
Yeah, you draft a say you get a Jonathan Taylor, Bijan, someone like that, round 1. Yep. I think you could load up in the other positions between there and the 7th, 8th round, and then take Javonte and feel great.
So here's a thought for you. Say you wait, all right, at RB. You pick. You could pick one. You could pick your stud, and then you draft a bunch of wide receivers, and you wait. You could draft Nick Chubb at 86 early.
Oh yeah,
and then turn around and draft Javonte. With your next pick
that.
right after. Start Javonte, fine, and then Chubb's coming back, and then you got Chubb, Javonte, and your stud.
Yeah,
and
kind of like a handcuff for Chubb, but not one on his team.
And then your wide receivers are stacked because you waited.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe you even grab a top tight end. Who knows?
Yeah. So there's your little strategy right there in the middle of that. Was that your last one, or you got
no? My third one is Chase Brown from Cincinnati.
Yep.
It's a guy that lot of high expectations last year to come in and kind of take some snaps from Joe Mixon, and he did that. I think that says enough about him and how Cincinnati feels. He played pretty well down the stretch for them, and yes, Zach Moss is there. They also lost the Evans guy that he just went down for the season. Second or third year guy, I think, Michigan. So it looks like it's really the Brown and Moss show, and I think it's going to be the Chase Brown show eventually. Is it going to be probably a 70-30, 60-40 split? Maybe, but I just trust Chase Brown to have more, get more out of his touches, I guess you could say. And with Zach Moss, we've seen him the past few years in spots where you're like, oh, Zach Moss is getting underdrafted because he's going to get all the touches there, and he just never does. He's had fine seasons, but he's never really been able to just get his hold on a running back room. So I don't really know why we expect that to happen here, especially when there's a guy that Cincinnati obviously believes a lot in Chase Brown.
Yeah, the drafted, so I understand. I'm right there with you. I just do worry that there's got to be a reason they brought Zach. I mean, I know they brought him in for some depth, but they brought him in for a reason. Now, do I think he's going to be the man? I don't think so. I think it's going to be whoever's the best running back is going to be the man.
Yeah.
But I do think whichever one doesn't win is going to get, 30% of those touches, maybe a little bit more. So if you do come in with Chase Brown, don't come in with that workhorse expectation.
Yeah, definitely.
Not like like we were talking about with somebody. Who was your first one?
James Cook.
Yeah, no, don't come in with those expectations because he's going. But I do agree because they've talked a lot about Chase Brown. He's a couple years younger than Zach Moss, and supposedly has been looking a lot better in the offense. Now he's more familiar because Zach Moss is new. But hey, if you don't look good in practice, they're not going to play you in the field.
Yeah,
and
right.
Especially if you're the new guy. So I like that pick a lot. And then we'll roll right on into my first one, and that's going to be Rico Dowdle for Dallas. Somebody that I believe everybody could. I mean, he really could be a sleeper. Technically, he's so far down to dadgummit, but he's going around pick 149. But I mean, he's the starter. I know they brought Zeke back, and I get it. But I mean, they got Zeke, they got Rico, and then I believe they got Deuce Vaughn and Kevontae Turpin. I just think Dowdle showed him enough last year. If I'm not mistaken, did they give him a contract extension?
I'm not sure. He was a rookie last year, but he might have been only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, no, actually, he wasn't a rookie last year. He's
really?
He's been in the league 4 years out of South Carolina.
Dowdle has?
That's what it says.
Seriously?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep. Sleepers got him down for 4 years of experience. So, but anyway, they brought in Royce Freeman.
That's crazy.
They brought in Royce Freeman. He got hurt. He looked good for about a half second. He got hurt. And then they drafted a rookie, Malik Davis. He's like 7th on the depth chart. So it's Zeke, Dowdle, Freeman hurt, Deuce Vaughn. Haven't really heard that much about him. I've heard he's been making some plays, but I think he's going to be more of a gadget player. And look, we all know what Zeke can and can't do. We seen what he did in New England last year. Ended up finished the season, let me see, at RB30. Okay. So, I mean, and also Zeke's not getting any younger. He's 20. Hold on. He's 29. And Dallas knows what they got in Zeke. They signed him because he's comfortable. He's a bruiser. He's going to allow to give them some depth. But I don't think he's going to be your lead guy. I think it's going to be Rico Dowdle. And I expect him to take a big step forward. He looked better than Tony Pollard every chance he got last year. Honestly, he looked like the Tony Pollard we thought we were going to get. Yeah. I mean, if you can believe that or not. So give me some Rico Dowdle for Dallas. I like him a lot, especially late. I've got him in one of my dynasty teams, and I'm really excited for it and to be able to use him. Next guy on my list is a breakout. This guy I do really think is going to truly break out. Everybody's going to know who he is, which some people that are a little bit deeper do, but Zamir White for Las Vegas. I mean, essentially the reason that Las Vegas let Josh Jacobs go is because Zamir White looked as good as he did last year. He didn't play the whole season. He only played a pretty good bit the last 4 games. But those last 4 games were solid. I mean, he averaged around like 16 fantasy points those last 4 games. Had a handful of catches each game. I mean, looked very well doing it. Only thing about White, I think, he's gonna have the role. So they brought in Alexander Madison, right? I know Clay and I talked about this the other day. So they bring in Alexander Madison, all right, and Zamir White. Well, Alexander Madison looked so bad that the rookie out of where was that at? Was it
New Hampshire?
New Hampshire. The rookie out of New Hampshire,
very good football school,
has already surpassed Alexander Madison on the depth chart in the preseason. So I dare it to say that Zamir White has this show to himself, and the only bad thing. Probably the greatest offense, not the best quarterback play we got a quarterback battle between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, guys. It doesn't get much more exciting than that.
I think they just brought in what's the name? They brought
Eli
back
Manning.
They brought back Nathan Peterman.
Nathan Peterman. Oh yeah.
They brought him back.
The record holder for the most interceptions in a quarter.
Thank
goodness. He's going to save it. Anyway, so Zamir White coming in, I think he's going to take a big step forward. I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be up there with the starters that we talk about all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about first round draft pick.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be up there with the Rashad Whites, the James Cooks, the Alvin Kamaras, this year's Alvin Kamara, not the old Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker. Some of those guys, I think it's going to be Zamir White up in that area. I think that's going to be a big step forward for him. Right now, he's getting drafted around 66th. I think it's going to be about 20 picks higher than that by this time next year.
I was just about to say, I feel like he's going to be this year's Rashad White, last year Rashad White going into the season wasn't really any competition in his backfield and went out there and had a top 10, top 8 fantasy season last year. Off of just sheer volume, he wasn't that great of a running back. He was just awesome for fantasy, and I think you're going to see a similar situation this year for Zamir.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And then my last one, Javonte Williams. We already talked about him, so that gives me Rico Dowdle, Zamir White, and Javonte Williams at running back. And who were yours, Clay?
James Cook, Javonte Williams, Chase Brown.
There you go, guys, and. Then going right on into our wide receivers, let's go ahead and get started with yours.
All right. My number 1 is George Pickens. In Pittsburgh, I've never been the biggest fan of him and certainly not the biggest fan of the Steelers, one of my least favorite teams, but I do like this situation for him. I've always felt like Deontay was the guy that was better than him, and now that he is gone, someone has to catch football. Doesn't look like they're getting Brandon Ayuk. And what intrigues me the most about George Pickens, his best skill set is his ability to catch the deep ball. And yes, we don't love Russell Wilson as a quarterback anymore, but one thing he still can do is throw a deep ball. You always think back to the throws he used to make to Tyler Lockett when he was in Seattle. You think back to last year, the big plays that he would hit Cortland Sutton on. You have those big deep ball throws from Russ. I think you see a similar thing and a similar connection this year with Pickens. And for the 28th overall receiver, I like the chances that he's gonna just have to get the ball pretty much, and probably finish around top 20, top 15. And last year he had a pretty good season as well. So George Pickens is my number one, and number two we got Zay Flowers, staying in the division. This is a guy that I love a lot, and I love this offense. And Zay Flowers is a guy I was pretty high on last year, and he had a good season. I do think he can take it up to another step in terms of touchdowns, maybe even more yards. Just another year in that offense, and usually that second season is when we see wide receivers take that big step usually. And I love Zay Flowers this year.
So,
and then my third one is Darnell Mooney, who I think you might have.
Love it. Not for this list.
Okay.
Not this list, but he is on one of my other lists.
I got you. I got Darnell Mooney, who's number 52, so a little bit deeper.
I like Mooney.
But
yeah,
he is the wide receiver 2 in Atlanta. But I think it's going to come at. I think it's going to be good that he is a number 2 in an offense instead of being that number 1, which he was in Chicago for so long. And I think he's probably going to be the 4th option that Kirk looks on a given play. But I think that's just going to make him have better matchups and have less eyes on him and just succeed more. And I like Darnell Mooney a lot as a player.
So I like Pickens' pick a lot as long as they don't trade for Ayuk.
Yeah,
they trade for Ayuk.
If that happens, then it changes a lot.
Poo-poo.
Definitely.
And then I do worry about Arthur Smith, but like you said, they got to throw it to somebody. And I will say Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is by far more competent than anybody that Pickens has had so far. So and they got him and Freiermuth, and that's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I've been hearing some rumblings about Van Jefferson. Look, Van Jefferson couldn't cut it as the number 2 with Stafford throwing to him. So I don't think he's going to cut it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That's just me. But so I like Pickens a lot. The Flowers pick, though, all right. So I heard a stat. Flowers did not – okay, what was it? So he was not a top 30 wide receiver any of the weeks that Mark Andrews played or Baltimore's run offense was successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
So either or. Like if they were running the ball well, he was not cracking the top 30. And if Mark Andrews was healthy, he was not cracking the top 30. I don't know why those correlated so well last year, but Mark Andrews was out for a good part of the year, and the running game did suffer for a good part of the year last year.
Yeah, so you think now Andrews will be healthy, Derrick Henry certainly will improve that running game. It's definitely something. It's definitely something interesting.
He still gains experience. Yeah. He's still a young wide receiver that could take another step forward. But that was one take because I thought about putting him on this list as well and taking off one of mine. But that was one tidbit where I was like, I could see what they're talking about, but also Andrews can't stay healthy to save his life.
Yeah. And it's also a situation where like you know you're going to get 3,500, 4,000 yards from Lamar.
Yeah.
Say Andrews gets 1,000 of them, who's getting that other 3,000?
Yeah.
Like someone's got to do it. Odell's out of the picture now, so someone's got to catch the ball.
And I do feel like Bateman steps into that Odell role.
Yeah, but how much can we?
Not saying, well, that's true, but I'm not saying that's still not going to take away from Zay's opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, if he takes that step forward, I like that a lot. Now we do have Nelson Aguilar in there that likes to come out of nowhere and throw up a 10 for 120 and 2 touchdown game.
That's true.
And it's like, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got the talent. I really feel like he's on the cusp, and if he does break out, you're going to be on the forefront of that call.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad call by any means. I just heard some arguments against it where I was like,
yeah, it definitely.
But I can see both sides. I could see both sides of it. So, and then your last one, what was he?
Mooney.
One more time. Sorry, Mooney. Love him.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about him later. So, but my breakout picks, wide receivers, number one, another rookie, Malik Neighbors. Guys, all right, let's think about this New York Giants offense, right? For so long, their focal point has been Saquon Barkley, okay? And Saquon Barkley was solely successful there. It was not because they had a good team and they had a good offense. It was because their offense was strictly built around Saquon Barkley. And now we have Malik Neighbors coming in. They're big, high first-round draft pick. They let Saquon go. Rumor has it Malik Neighbors is the new focal point of this offense. Okay. So, with that being said, he is going around pick 52. Okay. Now, what I've heard from a couple of analysts and beat writers and analysts talking to beat writers is we should expect around 15 plus targets a game. If this cat's getting 15 plus targets a game, even if he only catches 10 of them, okay, I mean, we're looking at probably 10 with a minimum of 100 yards. I mean, we're talking about a stud, okay? They have nobody else. You got Devin Singletary as the RB1. And then you got Daniel Bellinger as the tight end. You got Wandale Washington as the wide receiver 2. Darius Slayton is the 3. I mean, it's going to be the Malik Neighbors show. As long as he can stay healthy, and Daniel Jones, I don't know if it matters if it's Daniel Jones or not. And I was telling Clay this the other day. I can't compare him to Justin Jefferson because Justin Jefferson's such an outstanding phenomenal generational wide receiver. But we've seen him do it with any quarterback. We've seen other wide receivers do it with any quarterback. So whether it's Daniel Jones or somebody else, if he's as good as advertised and he's the focal point of the offense, I think Malik Neighbors is going to, and he stays healthy, Malik Neighbors is going to be somebody that's going to be in that top 10 to 12 wide receiver range that we're talking about next year. So I like Malik Neighbors breaking out a lot. Number 2 for me is going to be Deontay Johnson for Carolina. I heard Clay talk a little bit about him earlier when Bryce Young, and I just think this is purely based off a quarterback upgrade. I think that Bryce Young is an upgrade over Kenny Pickett. I think it's going to be a better offensive scheme. It's not going to be as much run-based as it was in Philadelphia. I mean, not Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh. Sorry, guys. Wrong P. I mean, it's going to be probably more of an even-based, but, I mean, looking at the run game there in Carolina, they're not going to lean on it extremely heavy, and the only way Bryce Young's going to grow is if he passes a little bit more. But Deontay Johnson, I think, personally, he steps into that Adam Thielen role from last year. Yes, Adam Thielen is still there, but you don't bring Deontay Johnson in like they did and not expect to use him. So I think Deontay Johnson takes a step forward this year in his production. He's been productive before with Pittsburgh, but I think with him being the locked-in number 1, but he's got to stay healthy. I think he could be very productive, and he's going around pick 87. So he's going after Green Bay's second wide receiver. I mean, so I like him a fair amount. And then my last is another rookie, and that's going to be Keon Coleman for Buffalo. And I'm going to be honest, when I first started researching and I seen his name, and I remember hearing about him from the combine, and I was just like, man, dude, I was like, I can't believe they picked him. I just don't see it working out. He just didn't. I don't know why I thought that. I really don't know what I was thinking. But I don't know. I had a gut feeling that he was going to be a bust. But then, so first off, he's played 100% of the snaps with Josh Allen. That's one big one right there. Like every snap Josh Allen's took, Keon Coleman has been on the field with Josh Allen. And you cannot, and I was on the Curtis Samuel train, but he was not on the field with him 100% of the time. I don't even know if it was 50% of the time. It was Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, okay? Also, another stat from the combine that I heard, Keon Coleman had one of the slowest times for wide receivers at the combine. You know who else had one of the slowest times for wide receivers at the combine last year? Puka Nacua. That's correct. One of the slowest. All right. Keon Coleman had the fastest or one of the fastest gauntlet drill times of any wide receiver at the combine. You know who else had one of the fastest combine? I think it was the fastest for him. Times for the gauntlet drill at the combine last year? Puka Nacua. So maybe the gauntlet drill's got a little bit more to do with wide receivers and their route running and their ability than the 40-yard dash. Does that mean that it's going to be true for Keon Coleman? I don't know. But then we also got to talk about the fact that with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs gone, there's 240 vacated targets in Buffalo. Okay? Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and Khalil Shakir, those guys cannot absorb all those. For one, Kincaid and Knox already had some of their own targets. They're not going to take on all those. Shakir ain't taking on 150 targets, I don't think. All right. Keon Coleman's a big guy. I think all of us from LSU remember when he destroyed us. He was from Florida State, right? Wasn't he the kid from Florida State that killed us?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, now I get our secondary was not the greatest, but, I mean, I don't know. He's a physical talent. I don't know. I just got a gut feeling after reading more about him, hearing about him. He's 6'4", 215. I mean, to me, that sounds like he's right in Josh Allen's wheelhouse to throw the ball to. Because for one, Josh Allen, he's going to throw it. He'll throw it where somebody will go get it. We've seen that with Gabe Davis so much over the years. And who's to think Keon Coleman ain't going to go up and get it at 6'4", 215? So, anyway, I like him a lot this year. And that rounds out my wide receivers for breakouts. And, anything you need to add, you want to talk about or say on that, Clay?
No, we're good. Let's move it on to tight ends.
And tight ends. So, give me your tight ends, bro.
Staying in Buffalo. I'm going Dalton Kincaid. Absolutely love Kincaid this year. Ranked as number tight end 7, but I think he can be easily top 5 this year. I think there is a little bit of pressure on him because obviously he is losing Davis. He lost Diggs. And last year, if you would have asked who would have been the one tight end that was a rookie that was going to have an awesome year, it was going to be Kincaid, not Laporta, who is now tight end number 1. I think Kincaid kind of takes that step to what we kind of expected him to be last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's over 1,000 yards and getting close to double-digit touchdowns this year. I think he's going to have a really, really big year. And as you said, someone's got to catch the ball up there. And I think you do see an uptick in catches from Kincaid. Number 2 for me will be Jake Ferguson. This is one that he was already pretty good last year and has been good in the past, but there's just really not that many options for breakouts for tight ends. Honestly, just trying to pick 12 tight ends for 4 different categories is tough enough. And I think Ferguson's one that can just take another step just because,
they pass the ball
it's
so
him and
much.
CD, and there really ain't much else.
And he's a huge red zone threat too.
Yeah.
He's on my list as well, and that's why I'm chiming in a little bit on this one because
he's an athletic freak.
Yeah, and we've seen Dak lock in on his tight end in the red zone with Dalton Schultz over the years, and then he did it last year with Jake Ferguson. And I mean, their chemistry is only going to grow. And I feel like I'm right there with Clay on this too. We talked a little bit about it in the past, and I think he takes another step forward as well. That's why he's on my list. But
and to be tight end 10 feels kind of low, to be honest. And I would gladly take him at the 10th, 11th round, wherever he's going. And then my third one will be Brock Bowers. It's one that there's some questions certainly all around that Las Vegas offense, but I'm just banking on talent. It's a guy that going into draft season, going into last college football season, it was, this is one of the best players in college football. He's going to be a top 5 draft pick. He ended up falling to like 12, 13, whatever it was, going to a spot that I don't think many people expected, to Vegas. But I think you're just going to have to bet on talent, and maybe he struggles with some of the aspects of a tight end, like blocking and stuff. But I think that at the end of the day, he's a heck of a receiving threat. He's athletic, and he just knows how to make plays, and I think he's going to make some of them for a team that needs a playmaker. So
I'll talk about Brock Bowers in another list later on, but
right.
Yeah, I agree with those for the most part. For me, tight end, I got David Njoku, who kind of took a step forward last year, but I don't think we've seen the last of that. Somebody that's supposed to have kind of been like a top end tight end ever since he got the job in Cleveland, and he's just never really taken that next step because he either couldn't stay healthy, he didn't have a consistent quarterback, he had a terrible offensive coordinator. And then now he's kind of got all the above. He's healthy coming in. He had a good, solid year last year. He's building chemistry with Deshaun Watson. They got a good offensive-minded head coach. I just think he takes another step forward again this year. I think that's why I know they went and got Jerry Jeudy. That's going to take some targets out. But, we've seen Deshaun Watson used his tight ends before in Houston, but Njoku's not just a regular tight. He is a superior athletic tight end, and I think there's a solid chance that he takes another step forward. And I don't know, I like him a lot this year. He's got a decent strength of schedule. It's on the top end at 13. Just a lot of opportunity there. So I like David Njoku in Cleveland. And then my second was Jake Ferguson. We already talked about him. Y'all know I like him. And, like I said, we talked about all those facts there. And then last, but certainly not least, Trey McBride. You probably like Trey McBride. He kind of broke out last year, right? Well, he's going 49th overall. Right now he's the 4th tight end off the board. And I've told Clay this before, and I've actually heard a couple. It made me feel a lot better about this thought. And this pick I heard today, there was 2 other analysts talking about Trey McBride and what that they think, and this is something that I thought, and it just kind of reaffirmed it for me. He is one of the few tight ends that has the capability, the situation, the athleticism, and the quarterback to eclipse that tight end 1 position, like the number 1 tight end in the league. Like, he has all of the things falling right for him to be able to do that. Age, quarterback, system. He has the number 1 best strength of schedule for a tight end right now. Okay. And Kyler Murray looks healthy, strong. He's 24 years old. Pretty much the only person in that offense that's going to garner targets over him will be Marvin Harrison. And you could almost say that he's going to have a better chemistry with Kyler Murray than Murray does have with Harrison starting out because they've been playing together already. So I don't know, man. I just feel like
the matchups that a tight end sees as compared to a wide receiver 1 is drastically different.
I think
you would think that McBride has a lot easier
of
matchups every week.
Yeah, and last year he only had 5 touchdowns, and don't forget, last year he didn't even start playing regularly until around week 8.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was 8 or 7, yeah.
And he finished as tight end 8.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I love Trey McBride this year.
So I think and it's like I said, it's hard to say the tight end 4 takes another step forward, but I think he's in that elite group next year. Like, he's right there at it now, but I don't think people consider him with Kelsey, Laporta, and Andrews. I think next year he's going to be there. So that's my last breakout at tight end. So anything else you want to add there, Clay?
No, I like all 3 of those picks a lot.
Well, we appreciate everybody listening. We're going to try to keep it short and sweet. We're getting better, trying to keep it quicker for y'all. The next episode up is going to be the bus player picks. So y'all be listening for that. We appreciate everybody listening. Please like, subscribe, go out, give us some comments, give us some feedbacks. Hey, if you want some help drafting your team, let us know. We'll be more than happy to throw in our 2 cents. Not that they'll be worth more than 2 cents, but we'll definitely let you know what we think. And we appreciate y'all. And go out, check out our sponsors, check out Doug Demona Farm and Feed. We appreciate all our sponsors as well. And y'all keep chasing that trophy.
This ain't how it's supposed to be. It should be just you and me.